Of course, the most striking thing for anybody listening to President Putin's comments in Red Square this morning is how they are 180 degrees reversed from reality. This idea that Russia is in fact defending itself instead of launching this assault on Ukraine and on Europe. And in fact, it's the West that is conspiring to destroy Russia. You mentioned those are narratives that go back a year. In fact, they have much deeper roots than that. That is the story that Russia has been telling its people now for a decade plus. And of course, that's the reason why so much of the Russian population is behind this genocidal onslaught on Ukraine. But yes, they are also launching these missile strikes against Ukraine as part of the pressure, keeping up pressure on Ukraine, trying to erode Ukraine's capacity to function as a state, and also trying to divert air defense resources away from where they're needed at the front line. What everybody is waiting for is the Ukrainian offensive, taking advantage of the summer weather in order to push forward and try to liberate more of those territories under that savage Russian military occupation. That's been something that's been expected for some time now. And the key question is whether the delays that Western backers, the coalition of nations supporting Ukraine, those delays that they've put in providing the war-winning military equipment to Ukraine to enable that offensive have actually been fatal, and whether it will in fact succeed.
Probably worth noting that the Ukrainians have actually moved their Remembrance Day to the 8th now, away from the 9th, just, I think, as a mark of the fact that they no longer see kinship with the Russians at this point, given the victory by the Soviet armies in 1945. But picking up on your point about the offensive, this has been greatly signalled, much talked about, but at this stage, we don't see a whole lot of evidence. What do you think is holding things up here? Is it the supply of Western equipment that's been promised, the tanks that we know are on their way? Or is there another reason, perhaps, for the Ukrainian military at this point not to have stepped up that offensive?
Well, there are mixed signals. Now, Ukraine is under terrible pressure. It has these conflicting priorities. It has to push forward and demonstrate some kind of success in order that we don't drift into a stalemate in the war again, like last summer, the kind that led to these increasing calls for some kind of settlement with Russia, some kind of ceasefire that, of course, would leave Russia in control of those occupied territories and hand Russia a victory. So yes, we know that there have been delays of months put in place by, for example, Germany, holding up the delivery of modern main battle tanks to Ukraine. The United States, for example, is still refusing to provide Ukraine with longer range missiles for fear that they might actually strike into Russia. And all of this, of course, plays into Russia's hands. It's playing Russia's game by Russia's own rules and enabling Russia to pretend to its population that this war is somewhere else, by protecting Russia from the consequences of its actions. But that point about the shifting of the date of the celebration of victory in Europe from the 9th to the 8th, that has huge resonance all across Eastern Europe. Now, in the West, of course, the Western allies, they celebrate the end of the fighting in World War II in Europe on the 8th of May. For the 9th, that was the celebration of Soviet domination over Eastern Europe. In fact, it was the replacement of one totalitarian occupier by another. And that's why it's highly significant, the difference between those two dates, not just in Ukraine, but actually all around Russia's frontline states.